Hello there. Terminator Genisys is a movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jason Clarke, Emilia Clarke, and Jai Courtney. Or Jay Courtney. He's Australian. I don't know how to do that. The story follows Kyle Reese and his tutelage underneath John Connor at the height of the Resistance, who are attacking Skynet once and for all. They are going to defeat these machines and win the war. Skynet knows it's going to be defeated, and it's built the time machine, and it's about to send the original T-800 back into where the first film was, which is awesome. The first 10 minutes of this movie are by far the best things about this movie. John Connor gives Kyle the same backstory that we are given in the original Terminator film. His mom was a waitress. He says, Kyle, she's not going to be the woman who raised me. She's going to be very naive. She's not going to understand. She's going to be very scared. You're going to need to help her. But when Kyle Reese is sent back, that's when the movie really takes a different direction in the fact that it isn't the world that we know. It's not the movie we saw before. Something has changed time. Something is different. When Sarah was a little girl, she was attacked by T-1000, a villain from the second film made of liquid metal. But that T-1000 was defeated by the T-800, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator from the first two films. Only, of course, a different model. This one sent back by an unknown source to protect her, who she names Pops, and has protected her entire life and prepared her for the future. This movie goes along with the idea that was presented in the original Terminator, that the world ends in 1997. Of course, we know that didn't really happen now. Now, the movie addresses this by having Kyle have a vision in the time tunnel, where he learns that instead of 1997, as he's always known, instead, Skynet will come online in 2017 through something called Genisys, which is something I won't go into too much because spoilers and stuff. He informs this to Sarah. They go to 2017 through the use of a makeshift time machine of their own, and the story really takes off from there. Now, the thing about this movie is the last 3/4 of the film feel vastly different from the first quarter of the film, which is mainly because that is the Genesis part of the story. In a very large way, this movie is two movies in one. It feels like the first part of the story was the first film they were going to do, and the Genesis part of the story was the second film they were going to do. And in that, it feels very scrunched, very kind of tight together. There's not very much downtime in this movie. You feel like there's information constantly being thrown at you, and you have to really pay attention so that you can go, go, go. Another alternate version of this film could have easily been just the whole idea of Kyle going back to find this older Arnold who is protecting a completely different version of Sarah. They are being hunted down by this other Terminator, so it's Arnold versus Arnold, and the whole movie is done that way. I don't think it's ridiculous to believe that an entire movie can be done with a CGI Arnold. First of all, CGI, there's a big misconception about, because the way that they do this nowadays is they have something called a motion capture suit, where they put all these dots on an actor's body and they're able to digitally make him younger in post-production. To just keep doing that would have been really intense and interesting, to have this older Arnold who is prepared, but he's just, disjointed. He's not as strong as this younger Terminator. Would have been really powerful and definitely returned to the roots that they were trying to do. And then as for the resolution of the story and where it goes, I'm just kind of sick and tired of Terminator movies having happy endings. Since the first film, the series has preached the idea that we have no fate but what we make for ourselves. Which, in a franchise like this, doesn't make a lot of sense, because if they're going to keep churning out sequels, and there's always going to be another Terminator, and there's always going to be things sent back from the future, which means that every single time they stop Skynet, it's still going to come back, because Hollywood is going to keep making movies. This is a really weird instance of where the movie-making machine actually works against the story itself. I just feel like if we're going to go towards something, I feel like this needs to be better organized. More implications of what's going to happen. Something set in stone, because it's starting to feel like nobody who's making these movies really even knows where the series is going. Probably because they don't. So as far as the series going forward, I really want to see the sequel. I really want to see what happens, but not because I like this movie, just because I want this series to have continuity. I want it to have some sort of a maintaining through line, which they tried to introduce in this film, but only in this film, not going forwards. Our protagonist is Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, and to be honest with you, I think that he's a pretty forgettable actor. Physically, he doesn't fit this role. He is 6 foot. He's built like a huge, a marine rather than, a futuristic soldier, and he just comes across as imposing, which is not how Kyle Reese is supposed to be. He's supposed to be a little bit more relatable, and the fact is I just don't relate to him. I think that he tried his hardest, though, and I really commend him for that. And, I would like to see where he takes the character in the sequel. Maybe he'll learn from this performance. Maybe he'll go forwards. And for the record, I am excited to see him in Suicide Squad. I think he would make a very good Captain Boomerang. So I'm really looking forward to that performance. Besides that, I really just didn't think he brought anything to this character at all. As for Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, holy crap, this girl knocks it out of the park. I think that my first impression of her wasn't the best because I was just like, who could be Sarah Connor besides Linda Hamilton? But Emilia Clarke just totally kills it. She's driven, she's strong, she's believable, and you really, really care about what happens to her. And, way more than you care about Kyle Reese. Her relationship with Pops as this father figure that she doesn't have in her life is really, really touching. I'll get more to that later. All hats off to her, and I'm so glad that she got this part. Now let's talk about John Connor. Jason Clarke, I'm sorry, the guy just isn't John Connor. I mean, we've seen multiple actors in this role. He just feels like he's doing a version of the character, kind of like the general impression of what people think John Connor should be. I wonder if we're going to see Jason Clarke reprise the character based on where he ends up. It's possible. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'd like to see him try to tackle the character again, because he is a capable actor. I saw his performance in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was very, very good. And I just think that he could have done more for the role than he did, and I'd like to see that expanded. Just some side mentions of some other characters in the film. Doctor Who's Matt Smith is in this movie. He does a very, very good job. He doesn't need to do a whole lot because he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but in that time that he is there, his presence is felt, and I think that it's one of the most undersold elements of this movie. When he was first cast, they never announced what he was going to be, and in promotional photos, he simply looked like a resistance fighter. I'm not going to say who or what he is. I will tell you he is not a Terminator. That is all. J.K. Simmons is also in this movie, coming off fresh off his performance in Whiplash, which he won an Academy Award for. He is very interesting and kind of fun, just a whole lot of fun to watch. I think it would have been really interesting to see his character more over the span of a second film based on where his character begins in the beginning of this story. Sadly, that probably isn't going to happen because his character doesn't really have a whole lot of purpose anymore at this point. Now let's talk about the man, Schwarzenegger. Well, the poster said it best. He's back. And it is just spectacular. It's the most fun I've had watching a Schwarzenegger performance since I saw his first comeback movie in The Last Stand. It is just a total ball watching him play this Terminator again, and not only is it just fun to watch, but he's just really good in it. There's still carryover from things that John Connor was talking about in T2. You gotta egg him on, you gotta have an attitude, and you feel in a lot of ways like he's still learning those things. Like there's the scene where on the road where this guy's like, hey buddy, could you get out of the way? And he's looking away from him, but he's like, bite me. And it's just so funny. I love that. But really, at its core, one of the things that makes this character great is the fact that you can explore some really interesting ideas about humanity with this, of what does it mean to be human, what is it, can a robot really be a person, the same way a real human being can be. And the way that Emilia Clarke's Sarah Connor treats him as her father was really, really fascinating, and almost that Kyle Reese's romance with her, it's like he has to win over his approval, and I absolutely loved that. I thought that was done very, very well, and I believed it completely, but it was mainly because of Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance. There are some great scenes and moments between him and Sarah. You can tell that even Sarah is still trying to win him over as a father, where she gives him a hug goodbye, and he's like, it's a meaningless gesture. Why are you doing this? It's because he's a robot. He is reiterating information as if he wants to explain it. And you still feel like there's so much artificial intelligence in his head that he's still able to make his own conclusions and learn. And it's fantastic. And in this moment where he's just saying, well, it's meaningless, you can tell he believes it. And you'll be able to see if he learns to love or learns emotions throughout the film, if you go check it out. At the end of the day, I'm so glad they got Arnold back. They said that if they didn't get him for this, that they wouldn't have the movie. Again, I don't think that that's correct, but I'm really glad they did get him, because it was just... he is the best thing in this movie by far. At the end of the day, guys, Terminator Genisys is a good movie. It's decent. Would I see it again? No. Would I see it in theaters? If you haven't seen any trailers and you know nothing about this movie, absolutely go see it. I think you will enjoy it. I think you'll have a fun time at the movies. As for Terminator fans who are looking for the next T2, you're not going to find it in this movie. But maybe it'll happen somewhere down the road. Everybody's saying that James Cameron gets the rights back in 3 years. I don't know how they're going to turn out 2 movies before that. So, thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, you can subscribe and click the big yellow button, or, you know, you can click the links below to check out some of the other films that I've made. I'm going to be posting a lot of reviews on this channel in the near future. Book reviews, graphic novel reviews, I'll watch movies, maybe even do some video games, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm Cole Silver, and I hope you had a great day and have a spectacular tomorrow. Why is it that everyone always does, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions when they're reviewing an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I'll be back. Leave in the comments below if I do a good Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Get to the chopper! Do it! Do it now! Ah! I'm dumb.